In the winter of 1944, the city of Warsaw no longer sounded like a city. It sounded like collapsing walls, distant gunfire, crying children, and the endless roar of planes crossing the black sky above ruined streets. Every building seemed wounded, every face carried fear, and every night the bombs returned. 12-year-old Elias Rosen sat alone beneath the shattered remains of what used to be his family's apartment building. Snow drifted slowly through the broken ceiling above him, melting against the ash-covered floor. His hands trembled from hunger, but he was not afraid for himself anymore. He was afraid because he still did not know if his little sister, Miriam, was alive. 3 nights earlier, the bombing had separated them. 1 second she had been holding his hand. The next, smoke and fire swallowed the street between them. He had screamed her name until his throat bled, but there was no answer. Now all he had left was the small silver necklace she had. Dropped while running, he held it tightly in his frozen fingers. Every night before sleeping, their parents were already gone. His father had disappeared. Months earlier, after being taken by soldiers, his mother died during an air raid while shielding Miriam with her own body. Since then, Elias had become more than a brother. He had become her protector, and now he feared he had failed. Outside, the wind howled through the empty streets like ghosts wandering through the ruins of World War II. Elias stood slowly and wrapped a torn coat around himself. He needed shelter before nightfall. The soldiers had started searching abandoned buildings for survivors. Anyone found hiding was rarely seen again. As snow continued falling, Elias wandered deeper into the destroyed district. That was when he saw the old theater. Half the roof had collapsed. The entrance doors were burned black. A faded poster still hung outside, barely visible beneath soot and ice. Before the war, his mother used to bring him there to hear music. Now it looked like a graveyard. Still, it was warm inside. Elias stepped carefully through the darkness. Broken chairs covered the floor. Glass crunched beneath his shoes. Then he saw it. At the center of the ruined stage stood a piano, dust-covered, scratched. But, somehow untouched by the bombs around it, Elias stared at it silently. He slowly approached and pressed one key. A soft note echoed through the empty theater. For the first time in months, the sound did not feel like war. It felt human. That night, while explosions shook the city outside, Elias sat before the piano and began playing the melody his mother once played for Miriam before sleep. The notes were slow, fragile, beautiful, and somewhere in the darkness, beyond the theater walls, someone stopped walking to listen. Captain Adrian Keller had spent 3 years convincing himself he no longer felt anything. The German officer had seen villages burned to ashes, children crying beside dead parents, men executed in frozen streets. At first, the images haunted him. Eventually, they became normal. That terrified him most of all. He had once been a music teacher before the war, before uniforms, before blood, before losing his own wife and daughter during an Allied bombing in Berlin. Since then, silence had become easier than grief. But as he walked through the snow-covered streets that night, he heard something impossible, a piano. At first, he thought he imagined it. Then he heard the melody again. Soft notes drifting through the ruins like a memory refusing to die. Keller followed the sound carefully until he reached the destroyed theater. Inside, hidden in the shadows above the balcony, he saw the boy, thin, hungry, alone, playing with eyes closed while distant bombs shook the building around him. Keller should have reported him immediately. Instead, he listened, and for the first time in years, the war inside his chest became quiet. The next night, Elias returned to the piano again. He played because it reminded him of Miriam. He played because silence felt too painful, and though he did not know it, the officer returned every night to hear him, For 2 weeks this continued, a starving Jewish boy hiding in the ruins. German captain listening from the shadows, enemies connected only by music. Then one evening, everything changed. Elias finished the melody and suddenly heard footsteps behind him. He froze. A pistol clicked. Slowly, he turned around. The officer stood there beneath the broken chandelier. Snow covered his coat. His face looked exhausted. Neither moved, neither spoke. Finally, the officer glanced at the piano. "What was that song?" he asked quietly. Elias hesitated. "My mother used to play it for my sister." The captain looked away for a moment, then he whispered something, almost too soft to hear. "My daughter liked piano too." The room became painfully silent. Outside, explosions thundered across the city. Elias expected arrest or death. Instead, the captain reached into his coat and placed a small loaf of bread on the piano. Then he turned and walked away. Days passed. The city grew colder. Food became impossible to find. But each night, the officer returned with small amounts of bread, canned soup, or blankets stolen from military supplies. Neither trusted the other completely. But slowly, conversation replaced silence. Elias learned the captain's name, Adrian Keller, and Keller learned about Miriam. "She's alive," Elias insisted one night. "I know she is." Keller looked at the boy carefully. "How?" Elias held up the silver necklace. "Because if she died, I think I would feel it." The officer said nothing, but deep inside, he admired the child's determination. In a world destroyed by hatred, the boy still believed in hope. Keller no longer remembered how. One freezing morning, Keller arrived at the theater with panic in his eyes. "The soldiers are searching this district tonight," he warned. "You have to leave." Elias stepped back nervously. "Where would I go?" Keller hesitated. Then he unfolded a map. "There's a refugee convoy leaving near the river tomorrow morning. Some children are being smuggled out." Elias stared at the map, then his eyes widened. Written. Beside the refugee checkpoint was a list of rescued children. One name froze his heart. Miriam. Rosen alive! Elias could barely breathe. "She's there!" Tears filled his eyes instantly. "She's alive!" For a moment, neither spoke. Then Keller folded the map. "Carefully, we leave tonight." The streets of Warsaw burned as they moved through the darkness. Gunfire echoed. Nearby, buildings collapsed in the distance. Searchlights swept across the snow like giant white knives. Elias stayed close behind Keller as they crossed ruined alleys and destroyed train tracks. At one checkpoint, soldiers nearly spotted them. Keller saluted calmly and lied without hesitation. "Military. Inspection orders," he said. The guards allowed them through. But Elias noticed the captains shaking hands afterward. Near dawn, they finally reached the refugee convoy outside the city. Dozens of starving civilians crowded, beside trucks preparing to leave. Children cried in their mother's arms. And then Elias saw her Miriam, wrapped in a gray blanket near the back of a truck, alive. His little sister looked thinner, weaker, but alive. "Miriam!" She turned instantly. For 1 second she looked confused. Then she screamed his name and ran toward him through the snow. The two siblings collapsed into each other, crying. Keller watched silently from several feet away. For the first time since his daughter's death, tears filled his own eyes too. But suddenly, shouting erupted behind them. German soldiers had arrived. One officer pointed directly at Elias. "That boy is Jewish!" Panic exploded across the convoy. Keller stepped forward. "Immediately, he's under my authority," he snapped. The officer narrowed his eyes. "He's not supposed to leave." Keller looked back once at Elias and Miriam. Then he quietly removed his pistol from its holster and handed it to the shocked officer beside him, Zhao. Soldiers stared in confusion. Keller raised his hand slowly. "Take me." Instead, Elias's face went pale. "No." Keller forced a weak smile. "You keep playing that song," he whispered. Before Elias could move, Civilians pushed the children onto the departing truck. Miriam screamed for her brother while the convoy began rolling away. Elias stood frozen, staring at Keller surrounded by soldiers in the falling snow. And then, just before the truck disappeared into the white horizon, Keller nodded once toward the boy, not as a soldier, not as an enemy, but as a father. Years later, after the war ended, Elias became a pianist. People across Europe came to hear him play. But he only ever ended his concerts with one melody. The same melody he once played inside the ruins of Warsaw while bombs fell outside, when audiences asked why that song made him cry every time he performed it. Elias would simply smile and answer, because during the darkest moment of the war, it reminded two enemies that they were still human.